computer. All right, we are recording. Three, two, one. Welcome back. We took a quick little 1 week break. I haven't talked to Mylan in a bit, so I'm extremely excited for today. Hope you guys are all doing great. Mylan, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Like I just said, I'm a little bit tired. Um, but
Long
yeah, man,
week.
it's been a good week. I feel like it's been fairly introspective for me as well. Um, Definitely, I feel like I've been reading a lot this week, so that's been pretty nice.
Nice.
Just trying to get a little bit more in touch with the self and like stuff. How you doing?
I am having a fantastic week. Actually, I feel like I was a lot more into the flow of the way I want my life to kind of be.
Mm.
Had some pretty eye-opening conversations with my parents, which was really nice. And I'm excited to share a lot. So why don't you go first? So you say you had a pretty introspective week. You're reading. What are you reading right now?
So I'm reading two books. I'm reading The Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis,
Mm,
and then I'm reading what's his fucking name? Oh, Relentless by
mm,
Tim Grover,
Tim Grover
guy who trained Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan.
and
And that
not
book is
LeBron.
really interesting. Not LeBron, because LeBron. Nah, I haven't gotten to the part where he talks about why he hasn't trained LeBron or why. But um, I think I'm kind of getting a picture of why, maybe. And I think he paints success, or at least not even success, but greatness in a very unique and um, particular picture. Like he
Mm,
talks about these qualities that. So what he breaks down is that there are three individuals that he's noticed over time.
okay.
There's the cooler, who's kind of like the basic everyday Joe. That's what most of us are. There's the closer, who's like these people who kind of look up to, like pretty successful people. And then there's like the cleaner, who's like the top of the top, crop of the crop. These are like the greats of everything they do. Um, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe's, the Tom Brady's, and in other many other fields other than just sports. So he talks about specific qualities that each of them have, and the qualities that he associates with the cleaner are very. I think honestly, from what it sounds like, is a cleaner is someone who like doesn't want to be happy. Like a cleaner is someone who like sacrifices everything for their goal. Is pretty much a fucking asshole. Does not care about other people's feelings. Does not care about really other people in general. The only thing they care about is the end result that their hard work brings them. Like the
Mm,
competition. They care about showing you, like not even showing you that they're the best, like showing themselves that they're the best.
mm,
They are ruthless. They are 100% driven and obsessed with being the best and committed to that.
mm,
And they will sacrifice every other aspect of their life. They'll sacrifice relationships with their kids, their wives. They'll sacrifice, health, like
mm-hmm.
everything. They'll
Yeah.
sacrifice everything just to be that great person. And upon reading that, I was like, damn, like, I don't think I want to be that. Like, to be completely honest, like, it
Mm,
sounds great. The glory sounds amazing. It sounds cool. But to be honest, I don't imagine most of those qualities are associated with individuals who are happy, and maybe more than that are associated with individuals who might be miserable. So
mm,
I don't know. I was like, man, I'll just be a cooler. Maybe every now and then I'll be like a cleaner or a
mm-hmm.
closer. But yeah, so that's one book, and another book is The Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis, which essentially talks about the role of pain and suffering within Christianity, and that's fairly interesting
Wow.
as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that cleaner closure thing. You know what I've been thinking a lot about recently? So this is kind of how a lot of my conversations with my parents go. We start talking about like, is there even like a best life? Does that even exist? Is there a life that we're all trying to like reach because we genuinely think it's objectively better than others? And usually what it comes down to is no, like, as long as I'm happy with the way that my life is. And this typically comes when I tell my dad, you need to start exercising, you need to start like actually playing more focus on that. He's like, you know what, like I'm happy with the way things are right now. Like why change? Why do anything differently? Which is valid. It's a valid point. If you genuinely believe like your life is great, or if you feel like it's happy, and somebody's telling you, hey, you could live better, it's like, why should I think my life is fine. I feel like the only time you really realize that maybe your life isn't that great is after you're dead, which in reality you probably might never even feel, because I feel like as long as you're alive, you always think there's more time. So even if my life is like whatever right now, it's like, all right, I can get it together next year, I can get it together tomorrow, the next week. It's really only when like, damn, I'm damn near about to die, I know I'm gonna die in a day, or like I'm already dead, where it's like did I really do the best that I could have done? So it would be like interesting to ask Kobe now, like, hey, like, if you went back and did your life again, would you have done it the same way? You know what I mean? As opposed to like when you're actually in the process of things, because then you're obviously going to think your life is fine. Like nobody, unless you like, if I'm doing the same thing day to day to day, to some extent, I think my life is fine. You know what I mean? Like you would create some sort of change in your life if you really were like, this is absolutely awful. I can't do this anymore. So I feel like most people exist in a level where they're like, okay, well, I could do better, but my life is pretty fine. Even if someone's like, no, there are things you can definitely do better.
We prefer a comfortable unhappiness over a uncomfortable happiness is
Damn.
how I've heard it said before.
Mm.
And
All right,
I think
that's
that
what I
I
wanted
think
to
that
say.
ties in very well. I feel like a lot of times, like I don't know if the individuals are necessarily happy. I mean, it's kind of hard to even know if you are happy.
Yeah.
That's a very ephemeral thing to capture. Like we were
Yes.
talking about the other day. It's like I don't know if anybody can ever actually be happy. Like you
Mm.
can maybe grasp it for a little bit. You can kind of bask in its light for a couple seconds, but I don't know if anybody can ever. I analogize it to the sun the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Say it
it's
again.
something
Yeah, that
that
was good.
I don't know if it's anything that we can ever grasp. I think that we can bask in its light. I think the closer we get to it,
Mm.
the stronger it will feel. But I don't know if it's anything that we can ever
Wow.
actually truly grab.
Wow.
And I don't know
Yeah.
if we're supposed to. And I think that's great, because what's very clear is that if you live a life, what is very clear is that the research shows that individuals are happiest when they're striving for a certain goal. That's like the thing that gives people's life
Mm.
meaning and purpose. Once we accomplish that goal, it's now satiated and that
It's
happiness
done. Mm-hmm.
drops. So it's like happiness is kind of one of those goals that you can always go for and try and reach.
Mm-hmm.
And because it is so hard to grasp, it's a great goal to always be shooting for. But I think, relating back to what you're saying, it's like with your dad, and being like, well, everything's good, why would I change anything? Um, that's a tough one, because
Yeah.
I feel like this touches on a problem in a lot of things, which is like kind of the so when is good enough? And
Exactly.
is there good enough? It's like in your relationship, in your life, in everything. It's like this is pretty good, but when do you say I'm no longer looking for better? Because if you're constantly looking for better, then you're not going to be happy with what you have. And then if you're not ever looking for better, you might be settling. And I don't know what is the best
The
one, but I
balance.
think the one I'm looking for ideally might be what your dad is partaking, which is some sort of um, satiation or satiability with what you have, like being able to be like, yeah, this is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is a type of mentality that I imagine is more conducive with happiness. Like I know
Yeah.
one of the core tenets of like Buddhism is that like all suffering comes from like having something and wanting to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a lot of people are like, well, that's just, being, that's just apathy, that's just being like content with whatever you have. And so, yeah, it's a very difficult thing. And I imagine that question alone maybe is like more important than like we truly understand it in terms of driving our happiness and maybe even driving the philosophy behind like what this country even runs on.
Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like we've talked about this earlier too. Like the idea of being content is honestly looked really down upon in this society. It's like, oh, like you don't want more, like you don't want, you don't want to do better. And it's like, and I feel that too. I mean, even in that conversation, it was kind of like on the underground and underpinning of like, how can you be okay with what you have? You don't want more,
Mhm.
but here's where I think for me, this is how I think about it now. I'm like, even if I think it's enough for me, can the world not be a better place for other people? Like let's say,
Mhm.
like I feel like once you take, it's like once you even remote, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is all cap, but the way I think about it is like, okay, let's say I have all my needs met and I'm feeling pretty great and whatever I need in my life, it's there. But it's like, if I just sit there and I'm happy with what I have, like, am I really making it better for other people? But what some people would argue is, hey, if you're really actually genuinely content, just from existing, you will make the environments that you're around better. And I can see that argument also makes sense. If you're that type of
Mhm.
person that brings joy to other people, even if it's in the small things that you do from day to day, you can make a pretty large impact and make the world around you, I guess, a better place. But yeah. So I guess, yeah. So I guess what I was trying to say is at some point it has to be about something bigger than you. It's not all about me. It's not all about my happiness at some point. You know what I mean?
I think that's where religion and spirituality do a really good job at, bringing that type of belief out of people. Like when you are living in accordance with a belief that says that, well, the purpose of life is not just about you, but it's about your connection to everybody else, then I guess in that sense, it kind of makes, when you look at yourself as happy and then look at the world as something that is dilapidated and destroyed and unhappy, it almost gives you this burden of responsibility. I feel like, when you look at whatever community that you are a part of, because if you're connected to that, then in some ways you're not truly happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like, in relation to like, I don't know, I'm trying to kind of put this puzzle together, but if I think what you're saying is that, one can be happy with themselves, but at the end of the day, that is not enough to better the world around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you have to ask the question, well, is what do we owe to one another? Why should we better the world around us? And I think that all comes down to like what you believe your connection to the world is. And I think honestly, that's what the purpose of spirituality is. What I'm learning is that it ultimately is that basis for like, I am connected to something greater than me. And you don't necessarily need that, but it is something that I think does a good job. But having something that ultimately, a belief that ultimately gives some sense of responsibility to those around you, I feel like is really the key to connecting those two elements.
Definitely. And on that note, I actually wanted to share, I finally finished The Courage to Be Disliked. And I basically told everyone in my life, I was like, please read this. Like, I feel like every time I read a chapter for that day, and I wanted to actually say two things, but every time I read a chapter in that book, I just feel like I just had so much clarity for that day. And one of the most important things that I was talking about is this feeling of connection, like where happiness is that connection itself. There's nothing more than that, that feeling of feeling. And, I guess these last couple of days, I've kind of been pondering on that more. I would say even these last couple of weeks where it's like, what is the value that I want to place on my connections and community? Because sometimes I feel like what ends up happening is I become so like addicted to that feeling of connection that I start losing, like I start being ingenuine. I'm no longer like actually true to myself. So I'm just like, please, I just want friendship. All I want is someone to care about me, that you start losing that touch with yourself. And I feel like
change your behaviors to constantly get
exactly. So I was at a party yesterday, and the whole time that's all I was thinking about. I was like, what is the level that I want to like give up on things that I really want to be and talk about just so I can like fit into this place, And I think that book really discusses a good way of handling that. And it's like the more you are in love with yourself and see what you are, the less you feel that need to like change, because it's not your task. And so, in talking about happiness and stuff, in that aspect, it's not enough to just be happy on your own. It is through those connections that you create that anything, I guess, real happiness is. I don't know. What are your thoughts? That made no sense.
I mean, I don't know. None of this shit makes sense. But I think that, something about what you're saying, I think is touching on, a very interesting point, which is, okay, so this idea of you versus the group, right? And I think inherently two social dynamics require some sacrifice of self to the group. Like, think about it. You grow up, right? The genesis of identity, as you grow up, you have certain behaviors, and then you try to fit into a group, and then the group says, hey, I don't fuck with this, I do fuck with this. That's how selfish behavior slowly starts to be conditioned towards thinking about others. Because if you're in a group and you're just constantly being selfish, people are like, yeah, we don't fuck with you, you're now kicked out, right? So certain behaviors that you have, say you're really, really aggressive, you always want to hit people just because it feels good, and then you're in a group, start hitting everybody, you get kicked out, and you're like, hey, that probably is not a very beneficial part of my identity. So you dump it, and then you adopt an identity that fits in more with the group, right? But then once you do that too much, you now become the group itself, and there is no longer you. So obviously, like we were talking about in the last topic, which is the balance in between, obviously, it is necessary to sacrifice part of the self to fit into the group, right? That is how groups work. But at the same time, if you sacrifice too much, you now become a part of the group.
Yes.
And, I think that
that's beautiful. Beautifully said. Sorry.
I think at the same time, like you're saying, community feeling and community connectedness is necessary, but maybe this is really the balance. And I think this is something I've really been trying to work on lately, because I think what you said is real. us constantly, our strong drive to be connected to other people and our fear of being alone ultimately are some of the strongest forces in changing who we are. So much I'm realizing of who I am comes down to my need to want to be validated by others socially. I've been having this really big existential crisis lately because I can't really understand how much of what I want is truly because of me. I was having a conversation with Jay earlier, and he was like, I like you because I think you're a good person. And I said, I don't know how much of me being a good person is because I'm truly a good person, or how much of me being a good person is truly because I am constantly crossing my boundaries because I want other people to like me. And
Wow.
therefore, I'll do whatever I need to do to be validated by others. And so therefore, it's hard for me to ever say that I'm a good person because I don't know if it's truly driven by a need
Damn.
of wanting to be good or just to want to be liked by everybody else. And I don't know how much of what I want to do in life in general is driven by that need to want to be liked by everybody else. And
Yes.
that comes down from me not being liked and wanted as a kid. A lot of that trauma. So it's like, is my life just fucking being controlled by my trauma? And I was thinking about this concept last night. I was thinking about free will and this whole battle between, do we have free will? Do we not have free will? Are we controlled by something? Are we free to choose? And I was thinking like, maybe it's sort of like free will is almost like water in a sense of like, let's talk about purity. And then everything you kind of go through starts to like change its like makeup, and it becomes a lot harder and harder to like be clear. Like the water becomes a lot more murky over time.
Mm.
And maybe it's not the case that like we do or don't have free will. Maybe we always have free will, but it becomes harder to see it in the sense of like you're going toward, let's say there's a race, you're at the beginning and then there's an end. And you're like, oh, I have a clear shot. It is free. It is free for me to shoot from this to the end. But then you start putting all these obstacles in the way. You're no longer really free to go through it the way you want to, but you are still free to move through this space to some extent. But it can become so crowded that it's no
Mm.
longer free to move through.
Okay.
And so that's how I was thinking about social validation and just like these traumas that we go through. Like,
Wow. Good analogy.
yeah. So I don't remember what the fuck.
Interesting.
Oh, just talking about the party. So yeah.
Yes. So I'll tell you what happened, right?
All right.
So, and I feel like this is going to be very common these next 2 years. You know, there are some things that just stood out. So here's one thing that I noticed, and we've been talking about this earlier, but it's so weird how important a woman's validation is for me. It's actually crazy. Like, I feel
For you
like,
to be validated by a woman.
yes. And I feel like it's like, as 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 soon as a woman gives me a little bit of attention where it's like, oh, I'm interested in what you have to say, I start to like place so much value on that person having like continued interest. To me, like the most hurtful thing is like when someone gives you the time of the day but then loses interest in you, because then it's like, was I not interesting enough?
Something about me was not good enough.
Was there something that wasn't like, so to me, one of the most things I value a lot is like keeping someone's interest. So like when people like look away when I'm talking or things like that, because in my eyes, like the things I have to say is who I am more than like the things I do or anything. So like to me, like someone actually caring about what I have to say means a lot to me. And I feel like I'm very like peculiar and like sensitive to like when someone like loses interest in what I'm saying or like goes away and talk, it's like, so I realized like that isn't very conducive to social situations. So I was talking to a couple of friends. I was like, what are things you can do? So this is some of the stuff that was brought up in that discussion that we're having. We were saying that if you spend an entire party or something talking to one person, oftentimes it can kind of place so much value on that individual that it's like you might just overvalue that, like, oh, I need you to pay attention to me the whole time, as opposed to like if you just have brief conversations with a lot of people but then like figure out who you really enjoy talking to and then talk to, as opposed to like the first person that gives you any attention, you're like, oh no, please don't leave me because I'm down, I have to go talk to somebody else. And it's exactly what you're talking, like finding that balance. I don't understand it. I didn't think I needed a lot of validation for like the last couple of years, but now I'm just like, whoa, I actually really deserve it. I really want to be, I don't know what I want from validation though. Because we've talked about this. It's like, even if the finest women are like, you're cool, it's like, then what? Then what? Like, it's like, that's not enough. It's not like that's like the end goal. It's not like I get validated by one woman and that's like enough for the rest of my life. Like, it's a never ending goal of just like wanting to be accepted.
Absolutely, man. Like, absolutely. I think, man, really what we want at the end of the day is just to be enough. And I don't know if anything external can give us that. Like, and I think we keep on trying to hit this internal goal with like external, or this internal target with
Mm,
external, like, darts, let's say. But
mm,
like, I don't know if it can, because like you said, it's like, we both have been validated by women. We've both been invalidated by women. We both have, gotten lucky enough to, have a girl who we think is very attractive, be into us. And it's like, once that ends, you just hop back to that story of like, I'm no longer good enough. And that generalizes to, I imagine, more situations than just with women, similar with men. How much of these peacock like antics that men are constantly partaking in are just to say, hey, I'm good enough to be a part of this group, like
yes.
probably most of it. How
Preach.
much of our tantrums and missteps with our relationships with our parents is just to say, hey, I'm good enough, accept me. How
Yes.
much of what we do in life, even talking about this, Tim Grover, cleaner type shit. All the cleaner's trying to do at the end of the day is say, hey, I'm good enough, And
Yeah.
maybe that drive is so fucking strong that it makes you like shut everyone else out, Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's all like looking at social dynamics and being like, hey, just please accept that I'm good enough.
Yeah. And when I was, it was just mind blowing to me because I was there. Everyone was just having these like extremely pointless conversations because let's say I'm in an environment where I'm around people who like we're gonna see each other again, right? Or there's a guarantee that there's something for longer than just this instant interaction that we're having, right? So I feel like when interactions are like, okay, I know that this is probably one of the last times I'm ever going to see you, and this is why we're having a conversation. It can go two ways. One, we genuinely appreciate the fact that both of us are existing in this very instant, and we like try to like just really be in the just bask in the glory of being like, wow, I see you, I am present with you, and I will never see you again.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just be like, I want to show you how fucking big my dick is. And I don't really care about anything you're saying. I'm just gonna talk and you're gonna talk and we can both just talk and hear ourselves talking. And if you as long as you find me attractive enough, like it just felt like so many of the conversations just like led nowhere. Like
Mm-hmm.
what when I hear other people saying, I'm like, okay, why do you say that? Like, like what is the intent of anything that is being said? And I just feel like a lot of times like I ended up having a lot of philosophical conversations with everyone I met at this party. But at some point it was just like why? Like I don't understand. I didn't understand. I was so confused last night. I was just like I went there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was there until like 2:30 at night. And we were
Wow.
turned up the whole time.
Damn.
And I was just like, it was very interesting to just see like random strangers just like kind of just be drunk and just I don't know.
Yeah. And like maybe if there is no long-term goal, because I mean, most of the time, unless you do some kind of networking, there's not going to be a long-term goal, right? So maybe the goal in itself then should be, it gets hedonistic. How can I maximize my pleasure in
Yes.
this moment? And
Yeah.
like that's where it gets kind of interesting, because it's like, hey, maybe you derive a lot of pleasure out of talking about philosophy. Maybe you derive a lot of pleasure out of talking about how big your dick is. And, I fucking, I'm like been working at Amazon for 2 years, bro. I make 200K a year. Like, and the girl's like, oh my God. Like, I don't like whatever you do that makes you feel good. Maybe you just do that and you maximize that pleasure to the furthest extent while trying to not harm anybody around you. Maybe that becomes the goal of going to a party. Maybe then dancing and having very short, good conversations about whatever the fuck you want. Maybe talking about nothing because like you're just both drunk and like you don't even know what you're doing. Maybe it's just for the goal of like being free. I don't even know. Maybe you
Yeah.
could find other goals within that don't have some type of long-term
Long
utility.
term. Yeah. That, I
Maybe
mean,
that
I
would
have
make
to
it, more useful.
because I have to because I just can't. I don't enjoy it anymore. I don't like going out. I went out a couple weekends. I actually don't enjoy dancing anymore. Like it was
Mm,
weird.
really?
Like I did not enjoy dancing these last couple weeks. Like I lost the spark a little bit. It was just like
Mm,
I real one the real reason is because I was no longer dancing for myself. I felt like I bring
mm.
no value to fun situations. So it was the way that I would bring value. Like it no longer just became something I was doing for fun. It was like this is how I'm gonna get appreciation and
That's
you know
so interesting you say that, bro. Just because like I'm like literally going through, man, it's so fucking weird. I'm literally going through the exact same thing you're going through, which is okay. So I've been realizing lately, as you know, like I feel like I have a drinking issue, and not even in the sense of like I am like uncontrollably drinking every day, but in the sense of like I have been using drinking as a medium for having a good time, and not even the sense of like, oh, I'm not having fun. I mean that too, but I don't feel like I'm good enough at parties. Therefore, like I drink because I feel like I get more entertaining. I get more because I'm not naturally kind of introverted and I have social anxiety, right? And that shit all goes away once you drink. So, I've been drinking as a way to like be more fun and like accepted at parties, or around my house or in situations that are just out socially. And like you just said, like you've been dancing because you feel like that is how you provide value when you're in those kind of situations. I've been drinking because that's how I feel like I provide value in those situations. And like again, it all comes down to like us just like why is it that we both, because I don't think I would say about you that you provide no value in those situations outside of dancing. Like I would never say that. And I would imagine you would probably say the same about me, but I don't
For
know.
sure. No, for sure. No.
So why is it that we think that then about ourselves? Because that's just kind
Yeah.
of the crazy part. Like, why is it that we're in these situations and we're like, hey, I'm not good enough. I have to do this to be good enough. Like, who the fuck told you that? Who the fuck told me that?
Yeah.
Like, where'd that shit even come from?
Yeah. Damn. That's it. I've actually never asked that question. Like I don't ask that question too much. Like where do things come from? Like I just take them to be and I'm like, what do I do with it now? But where does it come from? Like sheesh.
Like, who told you that? Who was like, yo,
Yeah.
God,
Like where
only
did
when
it
you dance,
start?
I fuck with you. And then like walked away. Like, you just pulled up you created a story. You're like, it's when I dance. And then you're like, yeah, like maybe
Yeah.
you got a couple compliments when you did that, or people got hype and you were like, man, same thing for me. It's like, I noticed like, oh, when I'm like sober, I kind of just sit in the corner and like brood. And like half the time, like people are talking to me and I don't care to hear what they're talking about. And I'm probably going to want to talk about some shit that other people aren't going to want to talk about. And then when I'm drunk, it's like I can yell, I can scream, I can
Yeah.
dance, I can just be way more free. And then I notice people have a way better time around me.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
that's not, I think the hard part too is understand that like, one, it's not our responsibility to make people have a good time. And two, like our value does not diminish if we do not make people have a good time. Now, of course,
Mm.
there's this value of like, hey, man, every time Gotham comes, he's lit. He turns it up. I have such a great time when he's here. Like, I've been thinking about that a lot, like within myself. Like, okay, let's say I got that, right? Everyone thought I was fucking lit every single time I went to a party, and everybody wanted me to come to their parties. Like, and
Then
then
what?
what?
Yeah, and then what?
Like, and
Yeah.
then what? And
It
then you get
never
that, and it's like,
ends.
cool, like,
It
great,
never
like you're so
ends.
lit. And
It
it's just
doesn't
nothing,
end.
there's
It
nothing more
doesn't.
after that.
Yeah, you're right. Like there's no ending. Like okay, let's say okay, in my head, this is my it's I think I'm actually very stupid, but honestly, I think a lot of
I
my
feel you too, baby. That's the basis of this podcast.
no, a lot of my decisions in a weird way, I'm gonna just be really vulnerable here. I feel like a lot of my decisions are orchestrated in such a way to maximize the fineness of the woman I end up with. In not just the beauty, but just in an
What do you
overall
mean?
objective sense. It's actually crazy. But I
What do you
think
mean?
that I just think a lot of the things that I do is like structured in such a way where it was like, okay, if I do it like this, if I dance like this, if I dress like this, if I talk like this, I'm gonna just hop into a higher and higher echelon of beautiful women. Like that's like my end goal. Like that's like the metric on which my success is measured. Like and I'm just like, damn.
I mean, I think that's kind of evolutionary to some extent, so I don't think it's stupid.
It's
But
just crazy.
I just think it's like, again, and this is this question, of course, but it's like, so let's say that does happen, like,
And then what?
and then what? So you get the
Yeah,
fine
yeah, yeah,
girl,
yeah,
you
yeah.
did it all, and then it's like, nice, she's here. You guys,
Yeah, and then
all
what?
the feelings go away, like they all
Yeah,
get like diminished after like a year, and you're just like, all right, here I am again.
yeah,
Like, so it's just like, I don't know. I feel
yeah.
like we need some, maybe all of these end goals that our behaviors are based around seem very empty. Um,
Mm,
so maybe there are some behaviors that can be constructed that at least are a little bit more filling.
mm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
if not filling, not controlling.
Mm,
So like it's okay to partake in that, but that doesn't like control you.
yeah. No, because I feel like you bring up a really, really good point in that like oftentimes I feel like it's so easy to become so uh focused on a goal that you forget to ask yourself like and then what? Because like you should ask that at some point, like not only have one goal in mind, but be like, okay, after I accomplish that goal, like what's next after that? You know what I mean? Not just and that's not an excuse for just be like, okay, I want to become a director, then I want to become a CFO, then I want to become CEO, like, and then just keep having goals in like one aspect of it. But it's like, what is the end goal? Like, like outside of just that path, like, I don't know.
Exactly. And I think at the end of the day, you know, the funny part is like most of these things aren't really going to lead anywhere,
Yeah.
you know? And that's maybe the important part to understand that it's like
Mm,
there's no place for you to ever get. There's no place you're ever going to that is going to be like it, right? Like it's
yeah.
just like everybody's like, oh man, it's all about the journey, you know, don't even worry about the destination. There's no fucking destination. Like that's
Yeah.
just like it's literally all the journey because there's literally only the journey. Like that's just it. And like the journey has like some stops that like you're like, is this the destination? And you like pop and you're like, fuck, it's just a little shrub. Like, and then you just keep going, you know, and then you just realize like it's all just shrubs. Like
Yeah,
there is
that's
no
crazy. That's
destination.
actually crazy. Because like even if we look back at what we've done so far, like we've all accomplished like pretty big things. Like when we
Absolutely.
were like 1 year old, like we would not think we would have done all that we've done. You know what I mean? Like we can all be pretty proud of a lot of things that like we're like, damn, we've done things. But it's like, yeah, they're all shrubs. Like none of
Oh,
it
bro,
was
when I
like,
was 1 years old, like I was happy to stop shooting myself. You know, like
yeah,
that was a dub. Like I
and
got
like
that
we
out of the
did that.
bag. Like
Like
that's what I'm saying.
we tire shoes, choose shoes like bosses. Like
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, we all it's yeah, wow. I mean, when you start that shrub analogy, I think is crazy. Just
I
always
don't even know.
just
I don't know what a shrub is.
it's like one of those like it's a small bush.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know what a shrub is, but it felt like it fit into the analogy.
Yeah,
You
no, it
know.
worked. That's crazy.
No, but I mean, dude, and that's why I personally like fuck with Buddhism so heavy
Yeah, I gotta
because it's
start
just
reading more
like
about that.
I do too. I'm not gonna act like you know, I mostly listen to podcasts. Bro, I had this dope ass. I'll probably tell you more about it off the podcast interview with this clinical psychologist the other day, and like, bro,
Mm.
she's gonna be on the podcast. Like,
Oh my god, yes.
asked
That
her.
would
She
be
said
so
maybe
lit, really?
you have no, bro. She is like a psychedelic assisted therapist. She like is a Buddhist.
Oh,
She's like she's crazy.
dude.
She's on another level. She's on another level
Ask her
completely.
again. That'd be so lit.
She's on another level. But
Okay.
you know, she's a Buddhist. So we were talking about Buddhism, and I was just like, yo, you're crazy. But you know, what I was gonna say is that one of my favorite analogies that I heard in Buddhism, or one of their koans that they call them, is just about a man who gets struck with an arrow, and as he gets hit with the arrow, he is asking a bunch of questions about who the fuck shot this arrow, what kind of arrow was it, where did it hit me, blah, blah, blah. Then he ends up dying. None of the questions ever get answered, right? So that's all just to say that like I think Buddhism, you know, better than anything understands that like there really is no destination, there really is no answers, there really is nothing that's gonna happen if they like fulfilled you. Nothing's gonna like be like it. You know, half these people who like we talked about at the beginning, whatever goal you reach, eventually you're just gonna be like, man, great, I'm on to something else. Like even if you do get every single thing you want in life, ultimately it's not gonna like bring you any happier than before.
What you have.
The
Yeah.
only thing that truly makes you happy is like the pursuit of that. So
Mm,
understand that along the journey, like the thing that is probably gonna be your favorite part about the journey is not getting there. It's gonna be your way there.
mm. That makes sense. And I guess, yeah, just I mean, yeah, and what that book also said is just like I love this analogy. I feel like analogies are huge. Okay, two things.
Allergies are gigantic, bro.
Analogies and quotes. I've so my parents, the way they were taught brought up in India, and this okay, I once I say another point, I forget the main point. I will first say the main point and then I'll
I'll remember the main point for you if you
okay,
want.
okay. So the main point is basically in Courage to be Disliked, what they were saying is that don't think about life like a line, like a linear line, as if it's leading you to some point. Think about it as dots. In each moment, you jump from dot to dot, and each dot is just a present moment. It doesn't actually lead you anywhere, but they're just dots. And I was like, wow, I've always thought about my life as it's like leading somewhere. It's like, okay, this is
Right.
just a next step to this bigger thing, next step to a bigger thing. But no, actually, it's not.
Really think about what that means and those implications. Like
Yeah.
that means that today is just as valuable as tomorrow and the day that you become the CFO and the day that you become that you
Wow.
get the hot girl. That means that every single day is in itself its own perfect picture.
Wow.
In
That
fact,
is
and like
crazy.
there's no more value
And
than
just
any other
being, just
days.
having that day, just
That
having
day is
that
like
day.
everything, you know, like that's
Wow.
what seize the day is supposed to mean, right? Before it came like a corny ass like caption.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's facts.
I mean, you saying like really understanding it is impossible, like, or not impossible. It's very difficult. Saying it is easier, but yes, like
Like really like thinking about that, you're just like, oh fuck, like man.
today's lit. Like today's pretty great. You know?
You know, one of these phrases that I heard that kind of embodies this really well is, I think it goes, I'll probably butcher this for anybody who understands what this really means, but I think it's like yoka hey yoka hi, today's a great day to die. And like, it just means that like every single day at the end of the day, like the goal is to be like, man, today would be a great day to die. Like I'm living so like fully and completely and like understanding that like there is no end goal, that like because every day is its own complete picture, I can look at every day as today would be a great day to die.
Wow.
There's no like, oh man, I died, I didn't get to, like, no, that doesn't matter. That wouldn't have done anything more than it has done for you now. Because how many things in your life where you're like, man, once I get there, like I'll feel like it's a good time to go, and then it's just not.
No.
You know?
It's
Once I
never
graduate,
it's never
once I
a
get the
good
girl,
time.
yeah, no, exactly. So it's like living every day as in like just fully complete, man. Like I don't know, like there's truly some power to that in ways that like I think as we understand that more, 10 years, 20 years, it's just gonna like be insane.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, wow. And you know, now my second point from what I was going to say earlier is I was actually talking to my parents real quick, and they were giving me, so in India, or at least in Tamil Nadu, like where they grew up, what they did in school is there's like this really famous author from like 1,500 years ago or something, and he just wrote like these bunch of like 3-word, 4-word things of like be kind to your neighbor, like just like small little things to just like help with life. And like what they do in school when you're a little kid is just like make you memorize all of them. And we were
Wow.
discussing about like whether that's useful or not. But what they ended up saying at the end was like, whether you actually are able to question as a kid or not, what ends up happening is as an adult, you have all these like quotes and like really helpful things that you can just pop out of your mind when in times of need, you know. And I feel like that's why quotes and analogies are very helpful. Stories, like I feel like just like knowing things, and now I'm realizing this is not enough. Like when I have a quote like Erwin saying, "My soldiers fight," like I can say that like in times of need, as opposed to just like
Absolutely.
having like an entire thought that's using 1,000 words. It's just like 3 words, boom, I got it and ready to go. So I think you
Right.
do an excellent job of that. You actually have so many quotes on the go, a lot of like pretty cool analogies. Like you actually give me a lot of like bites that I can hold on to, you know?
I appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that ties in because that's literally the only way I remember things. Like I need like my brain cannot process beyond like 4 words, because I for sure have early onset dementia. So like if you can hit me with like a good forward quote that kind of sums up what you're saying, like I will remember it. But if it's like this long drawn out thing, like my brain's just like, nah.
Yeah.
And you know, I think this has been knowledge for a long time. You know, this has been ancient knowledge. Like for example, the Stoics. This is why you can find so many like fire ass like know thyself, you know, like type quotes from like the Stoics and like ancient philosophers, because the way they worked was they understood kind of, you know, psychology that we're kind of starting to understand now, which is that you can have anchor thoughts. Like you can say a one-word phrase like know thyself, but it doesn't just mean know thyself. It means actually so much more. And what it does is they call them aphorisms. It's a reminder of the bigger message, but you use
Wow.
that know thyself to anchor that in. And then you hit the know thyself in your brain and know thyself. Memento mori, you know, these types of things. And it's like, yeah, you could just literally take the phrase as what it means, but it actually means this entire fucking book of things, you know?
I love that. Yeah. And that's where the power is in it. It's not just those 3, 4 words where the power is. It's in all the ideas that are behind it, but that are simplified to that level.
The words are just the tip of the iceberg, you
Yeah.
know?
Wow.
And the
Yeah,
bottom
that's a
can be
great way
as
to
big as
actually.
possible.
Nice. Awesome. But
Hey,
yeah,
can you
man.
tell people one thing? Because I actually want to hear it too, because I really remembered remembering this and I forgot. Do you remember the analogy at the end of The Courage to Be Disliked about um, the spotlight?
Yes. Is it the one with the globe?
Um,
There's one with the globe.
There's something about like looking forward, looking backwards, and kind of viewing life as like the spotlight on yourself.
Oh, no, I don't
Do you
remember that
remember that?
one. No.
I thought there was something kind of fire. I wish I remembered it pretty well. I don't, but it was just something about how like life is not kind of talking about this forward backwards thing, right? Like life is not when you look at life as constantly looking in front of you and behind you, you get so caught up with like everything that's going on, right? You're constantly focused on your past, future, whatever, right? You're constantly focused on, like we said, looking at the end of the journey. But understand that life is just constantly the spotlight. Like just this moment, just this day. Like that's literally, and if you think about it, it's literally a spotlight. Like literally all you have is a spotlight on this moment at this very exact time in this very exact space that you hold.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah. Like you have that one blows my mind. Like I go about my life thinking, oh, I know exactly what Mylan's doing right now. I know what Vishu's doing right now. I know what everybody's doing right now, where they are. But it's like, I have no idea what's actually literally happening outside of my vision right now. That's
You
it.
wouldn't want to know what I was doing, bro. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
even want to know what I'm doing half the time.
Like you just go about the world thinking that you kind of have an idea of what's happening, but it's like outside of your eyesight, you have no idea what's going on. Like people could be
Definitely.
doing anything could be happening. And so
Masturbating
really
with a
just
grapefruit.
so literally, so just being appreciative, I guess, just of the present, man. I guess at the end of the day, to sum this whole conversation up, I would say the one thing I read from that book and everything is just really appreciate the instant that
Wait,
you
wait,
have.
wait, 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 wait. Since we just talked about this, how about you hit us with a good 3 or 4 word aphorism to sum up what this
Sheesh.
podcast has meant?
All right, let me
Pressure's
think.
on.
Let me think.
Dun, dun, dun,
Okay,
dun,
hold on,
dun,
let me
dun.
think. Silence your mind and be.
Mmm. Fire. That's pretty good for on the spot.
I was gonna say silence thy mind, but I was like, that's too much. I can't say die. I
Silence
never.
thou with minded.
All right, you hit me with one.
I don't fucking know. Not that this is original, but all you have is now.
Mm.
Ba-da-da.
The whole
All right, so
theme
the name
song
of this
to that?
podcast episode needs to be Challenge Your Mind and Be. It's kind of
Okay. Yeah. All right, but I just want to say, any closing statements you got?
Watch Attack on Titan.
Yes, highly recommend. We're about to finish that. I'm about to finish soon. You already finished, right?
Oh yeah. for
Okay,
sure.
so I'm almost finished, so we'll have a podcast on that soon. But I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening. I know a lot of you have actually been reaching out and saying you appreciate a lot of the conversation, so I really appreciate that. Hope you guys are enjoying everything, and good luck getting through COVID. See y'all next time.
See y'all next time. All you have is now.
Sheesh.